They do this on time because we're frozen to death. 12? It's supposed to. It's good, at least the Spark. What? Except what was it? It's good to get the top. It was.
Very shortly anyway. I don't want to frighten anyone, but if you stand too close to that device, there's a very good chance that you could be served up as breakfast tomorrow morning on the HMS St George. It's out there in the harbour. So I suggest that we all come to the northern end of the transmitter and stand a respected and respectful distance away. It would be rather hard carrying a stretcher up that piece of hill there. Whether she had an accident or she's frightened of sparks, but they're not here. However, we're well catered for again by the amateur service, and they have their amateur television equipment here. And they'll do a very good job, I'm sure, for archive purposes. I can explain first of all what this experiment is all about. First of all, I'm the Divisional Secretary of the Wireless Institute of Australia, the organisation which represents the amateur radio service in Australia, and as I'm sure most of you would know, the amateur radio service extends worldwide. In 1901, in this far-flung outpost of the Empire, we had people involved in amateur radio only 4 or 5 years after the Marchese Marconi's original experiments of 1897. I think that any of you who have ever tried to import anything from the UK or anywhere else in the learned world, even with today's technology, super mail, jet aircraft and so forth, will realise just what sort of difficulties you can get into. To think that in 1901, when you counted transcontinental travel by months, not split seconds, and certainly not by hours, that we had people living in our community who were to the forefront of technological experimentation is indeed something to marvel at. Pop Medhurst, who I would go so far as to say was the brains behind the original station XFM here on Blinking Billy Point, lived in Craigley, over next to the Milan seafood restaurant. He was, by any measure, an extremely an extremely wonderful person. He was an army officer who rode in one of the last cavalry charges that the British forces were involved in. He was a person who was renowned for his literary skills and self-taught education. Craigley itself over there was, I think, what you could describe as the first ever Edwardian house that was built without a fireplace. And of course, as most of you would know, he went on to found the firm of Medhurst and Son, the electrical entrepreneurs here in Hobart for many years. You can understand why he would have had his axe chrome plated. nevertheless, to get on with the story, in 1901, during the visit of the then Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and York, later on to become King George V and Queen Mary, as part of the celebrations of both the foundation of the Commonwealth of Australia and I can't pronounce what sort of centenary it was, but the long reign of the late Queen Victoria, they did a worldwide jaunt. And unlike people who do worldwide jaunts today, they took months and months over it, and they did it in the HMS Ophir, and were accompanied by the battleships HMS Juno and St George. When they came around around the Iron Pot, they were amazed to hear the letters XFM being transmitted on their Marconi receiving apparatus, and even more when they heard the signal GB. And that was Messrs Medhurst, Hallam, and another person here where the blinking billy light now stands, probably slightly to the side. And it was spark transmitting equipment made in Tasmania, and we've still got photographs, thanks to Jim Davis, the historian from Latrobe. We've still got photographs in existence of the original equipment. We even have, in fact, one single last piece of that equipment available, and that will be mounted on a piece of timber that the current owners of Craigley are prepared to let us have. The transmission this morning is going to be effected on some genuine spark transmitting apparatus that was saved by the people at Latrobe, Jim Davis and his band of helpers, and it actually saw service with an Australian signals contingent in Mesopotamia in the First World War. It isn't the original equipment, using more modern equipment by the good officers of the Department of Communication. This morning we're going to transmit 3 messages out to the HMS St George, which is in fact the Murray Francis, the vessel of Len Edwards, who runs Moonraker Aerials at Lindisfarne. And there will be a message first from the Lord Mayor to the Lord Mayor of Cardiff in the UK, because it was at Cardiff, at Marconi in fact, transmitted his first signals over water and proved that radio communication between shore and shore was possible. That event was commemorated by the Rotary Club of Cardiff in 1947-48, some 50 years after its original inception. We then intend sending, on behalf of the Rotary Club of Sandy Bay, a message of fraternal greetings to the Rotary Club of Cardiff to let them know that we too are proud of our heritage. And finally, there will be an international message of fraternal goodwill from the Wireless Institute of Australia, the organisation that today is sponsoring this event, on our 75th anniversary of the foundation of the Wireless Institute of Australia, the oldest organisation of its type in the world. I think without any further ado, we'll call on our very competent technical people to establish contact with the HMS St George and see just what happens. Now, I will warn you again that this equipment is lethal if you get near it. Please keep away while the transmitter is in operation. And if you've got radios and things on you, I suggest you turn them off. So without any further ado, I'll call on Mr Dave Thorne, the manager of the Department of Communications in Tasmania, to do his stuff. Thank you very much. We've established contact with the ship and they've asked us to send our message. part of the commemoration by the Tasmanian branch of the Wireless Institute of Australia of the first ship-to-shore radio transmission in Tasmania, which took place in July 1901. Greetings to you, your councillors, and the citizens of the City of Cardiff, from the Aldermen and citizens of the City of Hobart. May your city continue to prosper and the links between us remain strong. Kindest regards. Signed, Alderman Brian Broadby, Lord Mayor. Over. A message from the Lord Mayor to be transmitted by Spark apparatus. I'll remind you all again that this is the first time since certainly the mid to late 1950s that a Spark transmitter has been able to be legally used in this part of the world, and that it is probably the last time a Spark transmitter will ever be legally used in the world, for that matter. The Spark transmission is a very broad transmission, and it wipes out most other communications while it's going on. We've had to get special permission through the good officers of the DOC to have this particular transmission approved. So you really are witnessing a most historic event. We'll now go ahead with the rotary return message. Thank you. Tasmania send greetings to the Rotary Club of Cardiff in Wales on this historic occasion of the reenactment of the first ship-to-shore wireless message in Tasmania. Message ends. Confirm.
And I remind you that we will be transmitting those messages via a repeater link on Mount Wellington to the Montrose Bay Yacht Club, where we have our Tasmanian Amateur Radio Convention, saluting the 75th anniversary of the Wireless Institute, and thence across the airwaves to its final destination some 12,000 miles away in the United Kingdom. Thank you.
The Tasmanian division of the Wireless Institute of Australia sends fraternal greetings to radio amateurs in Wales and to the officials and members of the RSGB generally. On the occasion of the reenactment by Spark transmission of the first wireless signals from ship to shore in 1901, we salute the 75th anniversary of the foundation of the WIA. Victor Kilowatt 7 X-ray Foxtrot Mike at Blinking Billy Point at 11:25 hours local on the 8th of the 6th, 85. Message ends. Over.
Reenactment this morning, and remind you that under the auspices of the Sandy Bay Rotary Club, the Lord Mayor of Hobart, Mr. Brian Broadby, will be unveiling a plaque on Blinking Billy itself in a few moments' time to commemorate the original experiments and this reenactment. And on behalf of the Rotary Club, I'd invite you all to assemble around the cairn up there for that reenactment. Just one thing that I'm using here this morning, VK7, VK stands for Australia, 7 for Tasmania, XFM. The XFM part is the same call sign that the station used in 1901. There is one slight difference. We had to apply to the Department of Communications and go through a fairly complicated process to have that call sign specially issued for today. In the days when Pop Medhurst and his band of merry men were doing it, there was no regulatory authority, and he issued the call sign to himself. So, see how we go.
Okay. The Lord Mayor of Hobart, Mr. Alderman Brian Borgby, to unveil this commemorative plaque.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to firstly congratulate the Sandy Bay Rotary Club and also Barry Risley and the Wireless Institute of Australia for commemorating this very important occasion. I think even today people will look back in the future and say that today also was a very historic occasion because, as has been indicated by Barry, this type of transmission will not happen again anywhere in the world. So we're all really making history as we stand here today and watch the wireless transmission. As many of you know, the bicentenary isn't all that far off, and we're looking ahead to the future. But it's also a time during the bicentenary when we look back to the past and we commemorate those important milestones in our history. And this is one such occasion. And I thank you for taking the time to come here today and help all of us to commemorate this very important ship-to-shore radio transmission. I'm quite sure that if we think back to the early 20th century, Marconi and no one in those times would have thought that today we would be able to not only transmit messages by radio, by just turning a switch, but also you can see and hear the news so much easier. But it was the pioneering spirit of Marconi and the early wireless operators that have enabled us to advance to the stage that we have today. And this is a very important occasion. Barry Risley really covered a lot of what I had to say myself in my notes, so I won't go over those again, but I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here to celebrate this occasion with you, and also to thank the Sandy Bay Rotary Club for its involvement in enabling everyone to mark the occasion. And I have great pleasure in unveiling this can, which with its bronze commemorative plaque, I'm sure it will be remembered for a long time as a memorial to a man of great vision. Thank you. Yes, it's, the plaque is as follows: 1901-1985. This plaque, erected by the Sandy Bay Rotary Club, commemorates the first Tasmanian ship-to-shore radio transmission in July 1901 between HMS St George and Long Beach Light Station. Reenacted on the 8th of June 1985 by the Wireless Institute of Australia, Tasmanian Division, using Spark transmission apparatus.